my name is Jeffrey Smith. I'm with attorney Mark Burton. Mark was one of the attorneys at the Lee Johnson trial, which was the first trial against Monsanto, where Lee Johnson was awarded $89 million. Tell us, having been following these trials, what is it that's making the juries give such big awards of punitive damages? What is it that they learn about Monsanto and their behavior over the last few years that has caused them to be so generous with the plaintiffs?
Well, facts drive cases. Corporations don't want you to believe that there's truth to the plaintiff's allegations or that they're bad characters, but the evidence that's been uncovered in this case, it goes back, of course, decades and decades to the beginning of Roundup, or even before Roundup, really. It's very disturbing. Just to give you an example.
Yes, let's do some examples. Let's tell some stories here.
Sure. One example would be, people don't understand that when Monsanto originally obtained approval for Roundup, that the original study that was conducted by a company called IBT.
Oh, I love this story, IBT.
Right. And IBT, of course, this was relatively early on in the days that the EPA was first created, actually. And IBT was a dominant player who was doing a lot of the cancer studies for various chemical companies, including Monsanto.
They did about 30% of the toxicological studies of all the chemical companies, including the pesticides in the country.
Right, so, there was an actual toxicologist, a Monsanto toxicologist, that as Monsanto sent the study, the cancer study for Roundup, off to IBT, he went with the study from Monsanto to IBT. Of course, about the time that the study is being completed, he goes right back to Monsanto. And then it turned out a few years later, after they had obtained all of their approvals from the EPA, there's the big IBT scandal. This isn't an allegation we make up.
This was described by a paper as the single largest scientific fraud in the history of the United States and probably the world.
The United States actually did prosecute IBT and the executives there, including the toxicologist who went from Monsanto to IBT, back to Monsanto. Monsanto paid for the defense of this scientist, and the cover was blown. All of these studies were made up. And did they say, oh my gosh, we don't have a cancer study on Roundup, we better pull this product from the market right away until we have an appropriate study? No, they kept selling Roundup, of course, while they disputed, negotiated back and forth with the EPA about what should be done. Should another study be done? What kind of study? If you're familiar, it's a long story, of course, but it gets worse from there, is the bad part for Monsanto.
So just to give an idea, IBT, they would do 2-year studies in 8 months. They would describe damage to the uterus of male rats or damage to the testicles of female rats. They were described as absolutely filthy conditions. If rats died during an experiment, they were replaced. They would cut and paste results from one study and put it on another study. It was an entire fraud. And so this was the place that companies knew to go so that they would have positive toxicological studies to submit to the United States government or other places, and it was a total fraud. And there were 3 people that went to jail.